Hi everybody and welcome back. This lecture will help you to understand more about reflective teaching. To be more specific, you will familiarize yourselves with the concept of reflective teaching, understand why reflective teaching is necessary, and finally, be able to describe different approaches to reflective teaching. Firstly, let's have a look at the definition of reflective teaching. Reflective teaching has been defined as a process where teacher thinks over the teaching practice, analyzes how something was taught, and how the practice might be improved or changed for better learning outcomes. Reflective teaching is a personal tool that teachers can use to observe and evaluate the way they behave in their classroom. When you collect information regarding what went on in your classroom and take time to analyze it from a distance, you can learn a lot from your experience. First and foremost, reflective teaching helps to identify what worked and what didn't. By looking back at particular teaching moments or teaching practices, the teacher would figure out, for example, which activities are suitable and motivating and which are not. Beyond this, the teacher would be able to look at the underlying principles and beliefs that define the way that he or she works. There are actually some principles that govern a teacher's application of some teaching approaches and methodologies that he or she may not be aware of. This kind of self-awareness is a powerful ally for a teacher, especially when so much of what and how they teach can change in the moment. Reflective teaching is also a systemic approach to looking at what happened. It required patient and careful observation of the entire lesson's experience. There have been numerous approaches to reflective teaching. In this section today, we would like to introduce four most popular approaches, namely peer observation, self-report, journal writing, and recording lessons. The first common approach to reflective teaching is peer observation. It can be simply defined as teachers observing other teachers' lesson. Peer observation can provide opportunities for teachers to view each other's teaching in order to expose them to different teaching styles and to provide opportunity for critical reflection on their own teaching. When implementing peer observation, it is advisable to follow some suggestions. Firstly, each teacher would observe and be observed. In other words, teachers should work in pairs and take turns observing each other's classes. Secondly, before each observation, the two teachers would meet to discuss the nature of the class to be observed, the kind of material being taught, the teacher's approach to teaching, the kind of students in the class, typical patterns of interaction and class participation, and any problems that might be expected. The teacher being observed would also assign the observer a goal for the observation and task to accomplish. The observer would then visit his or her partner's class and complete the observation using the procedure that both partners had agreed on. When the lesson finishes, the two teachers would meet and have a thorough discussion about the observation. Self-reporting involves completing an inventory or checklist in which the teacher indicates which teaching practices were used within a lesson or within a specified time period and how often they were employed. For example, before a lesson, a teacher may write down all the teaching practices she or he intends to deliver in the lesson. Then, while teaching, she or he would refer to this checklist to see whether they have been implemented successfully. Self-reporting allows teachers to make a regular assessment of what they are doing in the classroom. They can check to see to what extent their assumptions about their own teaching are reflected in their actual teaching practices, a procedure which is becoming more widely acknowledged as a valuable tool for developing critical reflection is the journal or diary. It helps to provide a record of the significant learning experience that have taken place. Additionally, teachers have the opportunity to come into touch and keep in touch with the self-development process that is taking place for them. Moreover, they can express in a personal and dynamic way their self-development. For many aspects of teaching, audio or video recording of lesson can also provide a basis for reflection. Although self-reflection and journal writing are effective, recording lesson would be a much better option if the teacher would like to capture moment-to-moment process of teaching. While numerous processes simultaneously take place in a classroom, video recording seems to be the best option to help the teacher recall different aspects of a lesson and observe significant classroom events. For example, the teacher may not be able to recognize students' private talking in a faraway corner or students' lack of attention to particular instructions. This second-hand observation will enable the teacher to understand more specifically and exactly about certain classroom interactions. So far, we have gone through key features of reflective teaching. Now, could you please self-assess whether you have been able to define reflective teaching in your own words? Explain the importance of reflective teaching in education and describe the different methods of reflective teaching. If your answer to each question above is yes, you have achieved your lesson goals. If no, could you please come back to reading 2 for more details or discuss your problems with peers in the same cohort or with the course coordinators. Thank you.